G'day everybody, I'm Daniel and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Agile Anywhere, Embracing a Universal Mindset. I'd like to start what's tradition here in Australia is beginning to acknowledge the traditional owners of our land. I'm Brisbane based, so for me it's the Turrbal and Yagara people, and I pay respect to their elders past and present, as well as emerging leaders. So Dallas, it's been an interesting year for the Agile movement, with actually many questioning its relevance in today's work environment. The fantastic Dallas Jackson is here to remind us, though, that Agile is not just a set of practices and frameworks. It's a mindset that we're in continual pursuit of. And really, I can't think of a better person to offer some strategies to help us along this way. Dallas's approach and universal mindset has inspired countless teams and organisations to break free from traditional frameworks and embrace a more holistic and adaptable way of working. Today, Dallas will guide us through the principles of Agile Anywhere, showing us how to apply these concepts into every aspect of our professional and personal lives. Now, just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and slides will be emailed out and along with a copy of the recording out post the session. So feel free to engage, ask questions, put some comments in the Q&A, and Dallas would love to take those and talk to you, obviously via that means through the course of the webinar. So welcome, Dallas, and over to you.
Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate you. Like Daniel said, please, collaboration is always the best way of learning. And so if you have a question, please pop it in the chat, and Daniel's actually going to interrupt me. If we were in the same place, I'd ask him to throw something at me. Soft, of course. But please, anything, if you have comments, if you have questions, if you're like, Dallas, what the heck are you talking about? I completely disagree. Please bring it up, because it is about the discussion. It's about how we can learn together. Lord knows, if you just learn from me in this hour, it'll be a disservice, because we have all of these big, beautiful brains on the call. So please engage if you can. So we are going to talk about Agile. And I think it would be a disservice to us if we didn't talk about the big old pink sparkly elephant in the room, and this whole idea that Agile is dead or Agile is gone. I am going to decline that. I am going to say that we've kind of won. It's actually integrated into how we have to be, how we have to think, how we have to engage. Right? Think about something, as old as humans been around, and even before that is evolution. If we think about it at its core, Agile is just really mimicking evolution. Keep what works, don't keep what doesn't work. And so how can we bring this into every day? I want to start by actually introducing myself. And notice this is not necessarily the typical slide. Mother is there at the beginning, because my son, who is 16 now, my son has had a Kanban board with pictures on it before he could read. It is both a blessing and a curse, I think, of being my children now. But it was such a beautiful way to incorporate what I loved in my professional life with what did I need at home. And I needed help. I needed some sort of system to help me with my family. And so his Kanban board was born. Now it has evolved a little bit. Instead of having, pictures of brushing your teeth or reading a book on it, now it's basically, Liam and Emma, you better clear your board before you can get the Wi-Fi password. So again, agility isn't about a set it and forget it, right? It's not a slow cooker. We have to evolve it. And when we change the way we do things, it actually makes it better. So I am a mother, first and foremost. I am a coach. I started my career out on the technical side of the house. And I became the first Scrum Master at Whole Foods Market, then team coach, and then executive enterprise coach at Whole Foods and later Amazon. It was a long, long journey, but I learned a lot there, and I love to be that guide. I'm a trainer, particularly for soft ed as well. I love guiding. I love giving, not being gatekeeping, like what works, and let's share it, because yes and ideas are the best way we can do that. Also a practitioner. I love helping people understand what is necessary to move to that next level, no matter what it is. And then pioneering, how do we create the best ways of working? How do we experiment? And so that is a bit of who I am. And I needed to actually put a picture up of my family, because y'all are going to be hearing about them quite a bit, because agility is such an integral part of our life, even at home. So now that my least favorite part is over, let's start talking. So before we dive in to kind of Agile Anywhere, let's be the origin story, right? Like Spider-Man, Superman, we all have to have origin stories. So does agility. In 2001, 17 software developers met at a ski resort in Utah, Snowbird to be exact. And what was happening is they were frustrated with how complex and rigid the working methodologies had become. So in 2 days, they created something that would really revolutionize not only this software development thing, but it gives us principles that work for any situations where humans, right? We're these beautiful beings face uncertainty and change. Think about how much uncertainty and change we've gone through in the last year, in the last 5 years. Sometimes people talk about before COVID, and I'm like, that was like 400 years ago, because there's been so much change. It's only going to get faster. So the problem they saw was, projects were failing, even though they were planning really well. Oh, this failed. We're just going to plan harder. People weren't getting what they needed. Documentation was valued over actually, having something that worked. And change was seen as a threat rather than reality. And I think we have to pause here and take into consideration that change is really hard for us. And so when we're able to build systems to give us the opportunity to think and buck against that natural tendency to avoid change, it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. So they created these 4 values: individuals and interactions over process and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation. But I'm going to say just a working solution over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. Now, again, this was about software because this is what those 17 individuals were passionate about. But I invite you to consider that even though it says software, it's just how we work together. It's just about the beautiful intricacies that we have as humans. We are not moist robots. We are all different. We have different backgrounds, biographies, backstories, and we want to make sure that we empower the human aspect, because yes, I know AI is coming up. Yes, I know we have beautiful tools, but there's nothing that can replicate humans when they collaborate. Yes, we have tools that can level us up, but nothing can replace humans collaborating, co-labor, working together. So the reason why this was so powerful is it was the first time that these competing methodologies actually united under one framework, one philosophy. It's not about what framework you go to. It's about, do you embody and embrace these values? And you can do these in many, many different ways. I've coached over 1,000 teams. Makes me feel really old when I say that, but I can tell you that none of them have implemented agility the same way, because they are made up of different, beautiful humans, and we have to take that into consideration. And when we go from trying to control change to embracing it, just understanding that it's going to happen, we're actually embracing life, right? Think about the last holiday you went on. Did everything go as planned? I'm going to assume no. And if it did, can you just pop your name in the chat, because I'm only going to travel with you from now on. Um, my son's in China right now for 3 weeks, and he's with his best friend, and his luggage got lost. So he went without luggage for 3, 4 days, and so we had to adapt. This stuff happens. And it's just because of the nature of the world we live in. It's not good or bad. It's our reactions that make those challenges and changes good or bad. And again, beautiful humans, putting them ahead of technical process, because when you take care of people, people will take care of the process and the technology. And again, it's creating a movement rather than just another methodology. Yes, there are great frameworks out there. Treat them like a toolbox. Pick and choose what is the solution to your breakdown. And if it comes from a few different ones, that's okay too. It is okay to choose what solution matters and what solution you want to try for the breakdown that you're facing. So that is a little bit of the origin story. Now, the great thing here is traditional methods have failed us, right? Like it's okay that they failed us, and you will pry my PMP certification away from my cold dead hands, because I'm never taking that test again. I'm just going to pay them money. It's not saying that all of that is bad, but it's saying that we have to change things to be more adaptable. The world moves too fast, right? Think about, I'm going to age myself, but think about 20 years ago, when in the United States, where I'm from, or where I was from, I live in New Zealand now. We used to have MapQuest, where you put in a beginning location, end location, and it would print out the instructions. I grew up in West Texas, where sometimes it would tell you to like turn right into a cornfield. Not great. So we want to be more like Waze. We want to be more like Google Maps, where we're taking in all of the information and changing the course as we go. That's how we're going to not only survive, but how we're going to thrive. Because I don't think life and life is about surviving. It's about how can we thrive? How can we put systems in place to allow us to thrive? Because that change is constant. It's only getting faster, and we have to work on the most valuable things. I would guarantee that everyone on this call has more demand than capacity for themselves. And so how do we choose what we do? So we want to provide the ability to learn. We want to provide the ability to give exactly what we need to. And in order to do that, we're going to talk about two major things today. We're going to have to embrace things that are a bit hard. And the first thing is the fact that plot twists happen, right? And so we want to join the Plot Twist Prevention Society, and we want to embrace agility versus putting more armor on. I will say this: agility is the best risk management tool out there, bar none, period, full stop. Because it allows us to see the danger before we go. So the first thing we want to talk about here is breaking down work, right? If y'all are Agilists, y'all know about backlog refinement, all of this good stuff. But here's the thing: why don't we bring that into our personal lives? So I will share my physical goal this year is to be able to do a unassisted pull-up. And let me tell you, Leslie, my amazing personal trainer at the beginning of the year, did not make me get on the pull-up bar. Made me do back exercises, shoulder exercises, arm exercises. And then we got on the pull-up assist machine. And then we're on banded assisted pull-ups now. So we're almost there. But the thing is, when we leave that massive goal, right? In January, when I walked into the gym and told Leslie my goal, it felt daunting. And quite honestly, it felt like, that's too big. I'm just going to give it up here. And so we're getting great at doing this with work, but how are we doing this in our personal life? So another example, my husband and I have two teenagers, two 16-year-olds actually, and they both have massive goals. And anybody who is a parent can probably relate that it's telling them what to do is probably the first thing to make them not do that. So I embrace the agility principles that we have and ask them some questions. Emma's going to New York to actually represent New Zealand in a musical theater festival, and she has a goal of raising money. And the thing was, when she was talking about raising $3,000 for her spending, it was daunting. She got into this paralysis. And so what we did was we broke it down. Whereas 500 was a bit more manageable, 1,000 a bit more manageable. And giving her that feedback along the way is really beneficial. It also allows us to celebrate those wins, right? Like there are base camps up to the top of every mountain. So once we get there, we have to celebrate them, but we have to learn from them so that we can move forward. Right now, what if instead of, if we're looking to change careers, instead of quitting a job for a new career, which good for you, that's like, if that's your choice, awesome. However, what would it look like of maybe breaking it down, taking a relevant course, doing weekend volunteer work at some place so you understand if that's the right change, doing a side project, networking in a new industry? There are ways that we can break these things down to make sure that we learn as we go. Because what happens if we took a class in a course and we absolutely hated it? Isn't it better to know when we take that than when we quit our job and completely are destined to work in this field when we don't want to? So also and I think we all remember this, but sometimes it's helpful to hear it from another person, sometimes in a different accent, because I know someone can say the same thing coming out of my mouth and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, I should listen to them. But 1 + 1 does not equal 2 with these. They are compound. It's like compounded interest. You get so much value from them. And so these small steps create momentum. Each of these base camps provides learning, provides feedback. Failures are a gift, right? Failures are feedback in disguise. And so even if we fail at one of these, it's giving us information to reach our goal. And it's the reversible decisions. So those small decisions actually reduce risk. So if, again, we go to a networking event and we decide, oh, absolutely not, that's a decision that we can absolutely change very easily versus the quitting. We use everything, around, we use agility in everything. And so thinking about if we're gutting an entire kitchen, right? Yeah, that is massive. But if we break it down to updating hardware, on the cabinets, painting the walls, replacing one appliance versus all of them, updating lighting, it makes it to where it's possible. And when we see too much in front of us, sometimes we give up before we even start. Instead of doing a full store opening, right, have a social media presence before you start to pay for rent. Do online surveys, do a pop-up booth, do limited product lines. How are we making learning be built into what we're doing? And how do we make that to where they're bite-sized pieces so that if one is a dumpster fire, because y'all, it will be, there is no escaping the dumpster fires of life, but it's recoverable. So the first thing is break down the base. Now, here are the things that I really want you to think about, because this is resistance, right? When I'm coaching teams, I tell teams that this is one of the hardest things for developers to get around as well, because it's not how we learned to work. We learned to build all of this layer and then go to the next layer. So this is hard. So there's 2 questions I want you to ask yourself. What could you try that's easily reversible? And where could you run a small experiment? Ask yourself those two questions and you'll get the first one or two steps. And again, when we break it down, we don't need to break it down to get to the very end. We just want to do the first few so that we can incorporate the learning to the next one. The other thing about agility and the fact that it's the greatest risk management tool is it can be your early warning radar. So in Lubbock, Texas, where I'm from, we had tornado warnings because we lived in Tornado Alley. And the earlier that you can hear them, the better. And I invite you to consider that that's just life in general. The earlier that we can make our warning signs audible, visible, we want to do that. If you think about this for a second, think about the last time something went wrong. Now, imagine if you had spotted the warning signs 3 days earlier or 3 weeks earlier. So what we want to do now is we want to build your early warning systems. So things that we do at our house, we have a daily, dare I say, stand up. So it prevents us from completely going off the radar between the four of us. We have that daily. Now, every week we do sprint planning. I promise that my children are well adjusted and they're happy. I just want to put that out there. But we do that weekly inspection. Hey, what worked last week? Hey, friends, Liam, you didn't take the compost out. Emma, these 3 things happened. We missed that. How are we putting systems in place the next week? Also, when we're dealing with 4 people's schedules, it's bound to be chaos. So it gives us a point to start off with on Sunday, but every day we just change it to see what's changed since then. And it prevents those surprises, right? Anybody here or has a friend who got a notice from their children about something due tomorrow or the day after and just got it at like 9:30 at night when everything's changed, like every store is closed and you have to have supplies for this project, all of that? Anybody? Well, if not, amazing. That stuff's gonna happen. It doesn't matter how amazing we are at planning. Life happens and we're parts of multiple systems. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So how can we have those check-ins to prevent those surprises? Creating those feedback loops, right? Feedback is such a gift. We have to give those. So for my pull-up goal, I'm getting feedback all the time on that. And it's giving me a way of adjusting, right? So, September came along and I was like, it doesn't, like Leslie was like, it doesn't, if you want to do this year, if we go at the rate and pace we're going, it doesn't look like we're going to make it. So I had to up my game. I had to go in and do some more work. And then it's building that trust. We can't do anything without trust in an organization, in a family, in any ecology that you're in. And even with yourself, we have to trust ourselves to do what we say we're going to do. So when we make things visible, it's building that trust. It's giving us the ability to go in and say the things that we need to say. Okay. So here's a great, my children, I see a hand raised. Daniel, do you see that? Or am I crazy? I mean, both are most likely.
Nicole, we just lost you.
Oh no, okay.
They've the hand raised, but we can invite you to talk if you'd like to raise your hand too. So feel free to engage with Dallas as she's going and interrupt.
Yes, please. Absolutely. Thanks, Daniel. So we want to make sure that we treat these problems as opportunities in disguise. And if you have human centered design training or thought about it, how might we fix this?
Dallas, we've got Edwin.
Awesome.
To have a chat.
Hey, Edwin.
I think you're on mute. You might have to unmute yourself, Edmund.
I think this is the perfect example as nothing ever goes as planned.
Absolutely.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi,
All
Edwin.
right. Hello. So my question is, all of that you're talking is actually quite right. And you're mentioning your family and getting that as a team. But the main problem I noticed to actually go to that way of actually thinking and go ahead is bring the team into that cadency, into that frequency, because usually people actually already working on projects in the industry we are,
Yeah,
is already focused on something different. No, the planning has to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, they're actually jumping to actually who was the guilty one
yeah,
and pointing fingers and all of that. That is actually absolutely terrible. It's not helping anybody.
yep.
So my question is going more to actually how to actually move the team to that kind of cadency, to that kind of frequency.
Yeah. It's such a good question, and I think everyone on this call probably experiences that. Well, I'm supposed to work on 4 projects for 10 hours exactly every week, and I have to be here and then here and then here. I think that there's a few things, and I'm probably going to say some controversial stuff here. Multitasking is a fallacy. Like, it does not exist, y'all. It does not exist. And so for that, I would invite everyone to consider education, right? Educating our managers, our leaders, our developers, our testers, our doers, anybody putting that information into the system is powerful. It's incredibly powerful. Um, and the thing is, sometimes organizations, I think we all do. It's not just organizations. We forget that education is such a key part of this, and we ask people to change the way we do things. So, um, when I moved to New Zealand, my son asked if he could play rugby. Um, Now, y'all, my name is Dallas. I'm from Texas. Football is a religion where I come from. I was a cheerleader, like all that stuff. My son put together a project plan in a PowerPoint talking about the concussion rate and how it would work. Like, he totally used what I have taught him against me there. But I remember going to my first rugby game when we discussed it. I'm sitting on the sidelines. I'm like, where are the stands? Where's the concessions? Where's all this? And then they start to play. Liam comes on the field. My heart is about to explode because I'm so proud. And then I get pissed because I'm like, why are they throwing the ball backwards? Why are they calling it a try when they succeeded? What was this line out thing? I was like, that's a cheerleader move. I don't know why they're doing this. And then someone comes up and says, like, Liam would make a great hooker. I'm like taking my earrings off, ready to fight someone, right? Now I know what that means. But I invite y'all to consider that I was watching a game that I didn't know the rules to. And I think we do that so often. We ask people to support a team and we don't teach them what support looks like. We don't teach them that there's different rules with iterative development, continuous improvement. And so it looks like, kind of like rugby and football. If you squint, it kind of looks the same. Waterfall and agility is the same thing. So if we do not give them the tools and the knowledge of how to support that team, how do they know when to support? So that's another one. And then the third, yeah, Dan.
And Dallas, further probably to Edwin's point there, is we asked them to play 2 games at the same time,
Yeah,
4 games at the same
valid.
time.
That's such a good point. Yeah. Yeah. So one, being clear what game we're playing. Does everyone understand the rules? And does everyone know what support looks like to the team?
And they're all doing it at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then furthermore, we can't do anything without trust. So when trust is lost in a system, it's probably because someone got burned. So we have to start to build that. We have to start to build, all right, team, we know you're going in so many different ways. How about we just, right? We're talking about breaking down rules. What is an experiment we can try to get them to focus to see that that is actually helpful, and also get our stakeholders, our leadership, and the people supporting the team to see that we actually do go faster when we go slower, which is so counterintuitive. And then we're going to talk about, after this section, we're going to talk about something around prioritization, Edwin, that I think will really be beneficial as well. So thank you. Thank you so much for your questions. And anyone else, please jump in. So when we talk about that early warning radar, so when we're talking about teams, right? If we're Scrum Mastering, or if we're doing Agile team facilitation, or if we're a coach, and it's day 5 of the sprint, we've got nothing done, that's an early warning radar. So bring visibility into your system. Our kids have Post-its all around the house. We should invest in Post-its because we have to give them visibility in what's the expectation. They have Kanban boards. Is it clear? That means you get an allowance. If it's not clear, I'm not going to argue with you. It's clear or it's not clear. And having those boundaries are really, really important, very much like a definition of done that we talk about. Oh, excellent, Daniel. Thank you for opening that. Excellent. All right. So build your warning signs in. So here are my tidbits here that I want you to take away. What are the ways that you can do a daily check-in for something? Just a little noodle on if this is going on course or if this is going off course. It takes 30 seconds, y'all, when you start small. So just think about something you're working on. Think about a project at home, right? We're doing a lot of spring cleaning around here, and so we have a backlog of things that need to be done. Linen closet, the kids need to go through their closets, things like that. Having a daily check-in. We haven't really done a lot this week. My husband also do this. My husband and I do this with finances as well. We do a daily, impulse check, right? 24-hour wait roll. Weekly, we do account. We look at our accounts and we audit them. How much are we spending? Is it on course, off course? Monthly, we look at bill patterns. We want to do that so that we can make sure that that goal is always, always at the forefront of our mind. Because as soon as we put it to the side, we sometimes start to forget it. So the third thing around change management is you have to plan for plot twist, right? We have to design breathing room into each plan. We build checks into existing systems. We want to prevent the reactive nature. We want to prepare responses in advance. Consistency beats intensity any day of the week. So there's 4 things. Plan B should always exist. So whether I am training facilitators, developers, whether I'm volunteering and working with families, you have to have more than plan A. I want you to think about, when you're looking at life, it's a choose your own adventure book. You have to have a few options as you go. For every happy path, you got to have a not so happy path, and that has to be just as ready as plan A. Here's the thing here, and I've talked about this before. Small failures provide valuable data. It is a learning. And when it's safe to stumble, that's where we get the most. I went to, before this part of my career, I went to culinary school. And one of the most impactful things that happened there was the chefs would ask us to do something wrong intentionally. So make a soup too thick, make a sauce that breaks, overcook a steak, so that we experienced what it was like to go wrong. And what that did was allowed us to know what the warning signs were going forward when we were on the right path. The other thing here is recovery paths are just as important as the main paths. What are the backup plans? And have them cared for as much as that happy path, because those recovery paths are going to happen one way or another. And smart margins. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with this word buffer, but it seems to get the point across. We have to understand that change takes time, changing direction takes time, right? Think about if you were going 90 miles an hour and you took a left. Even if you don't put your foot on the brake, you're going to slow down. It's the nature of what a change is. So we want to understand that buffer as it is. I don't like to, it's room for breathing. It's room for learning. And so I want you to look at your calendar at some point in the next few days, and I want you to look at your priorities. Do they match? Do you have enough breathing room in the day? Margin isn't extra space. It's the essential space to be able to change directions when complexity hits. So I want you to look for danger zones in your calendar, right? And those danger zones, 6 hours of meetings back to back with no rest time in between. Where is your deep work time? Protect that, right? From about 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. or 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., that's my deep, deep work time. I protect that as much as possible, because if I don't, someone's going to walk all over it and I'm not going to be able to do what I need to. Now notice, right? We're going into section 2 now, not talking about rigid frameworks and what you have to do with events or, the schedule that you have to take. It's about what works for you. The clearest path to your goals is paved with well-timed no's. And so that's what I want to talk about now. And it's about prioritization, that dreaded P word. And when we talk about prioritization, so many people thinks that it's about what we say yes to. And there's 2 quotes that I want to pop out here. One is, focus isn't about what you say yes to, it's about what you say no to. And then Steve Jobs said, I had to say no 1,000 times to good ideas to say yes to one great idea. And in a culture of people pleasing, people who want to be involved in everything, and think that it's really cool to be able to flit around, again, me as well, I'm talking about me, it's incredibly difficult to say no. So let's go to the science, let's take the science train down to the corner of fact and logic for a second. Every time you say yes to something you don't truly want, you say no to what you do. You don't provide the space. We all have an energy budget, and it is just as rigid as your finance budget, right? If we have $10,000 to spend on a vacation and you plan $15,000 worth of stuff to do, $5,000 isn't going to happen. And if you leave it to last minute, it's going to choose for you versus you choose for yourself. It's the same thing with priorities. Our brains can only handle 7 plus or minus 2 items in working memory. That's all. So that when we have to work on more, we go into that overwhelm zone, right? Are task lists growing longer? Are you dropping balls? Does your calendar look like a game of Tetris? All of those things. This is when we're in the overwhelm zone because we haven't made decisions. Decision fatigue research says every yes depletes our daily decision-making energy by 20%. So the paradox here is that doing less actually accomplishes more, right? Each new commitment steals energy from your priorities. Keeping options open creates mental overload. That's the hidden tax of maybe, right? Oh, well, maybe. If you're keeping it as a possibility, it is living rent-free in your mind. And then we have burnout. Without boundaries, burnout is guaranteed. And so we want to make sure that we're staying out of that overwhelm zone. We stay in focus as much as possible. And also this is finite, that we're not having analysis paralysis in the decision zone. We're making decisions based on what our priorities are. We want to make sure that no isn't seen as something that you say because you can't do something. It's said because you choose to respect your boundaries and your priorities. So I'm going to share something that I kind of put together because I have a hard time saying no. So I wanted to give you guys different options to say no, because no kind of sucks. So no, not yet. And some of these are cheeky, but some of these are the ones I really, really use. This is my favorite. Future me is already sending present me thank you notes for not adding this to my to-do list. Something that I think about a lot is that, okay, is the Dallas next week going to be pissed off at me because I said yes? Also going into quality, right? Like we can't add value, like value without quality isn't value, right? This beautiful cup, if it was cracked, like the value is giving me coffee and caffeine so that I can finish this webinar. If this is cracked and I can't use it, there's no value in it. So this one is something I love. I could do this at 50%, but you deserve 100%. So someone else should take this on. Matching people, right? Giving people an opportunity to match with others. These are just ways for you to look, and also what resonates with you. What are the things that are really beneficial to you? And then, as much as I still struggle with this, I think everyone does, effort does not equal impact. So let's expand to that decision fatigue killer, right? Our brain loves a good sorting system, just like the sorting hat at Harry Potter. Because each decision depletes our mental glucose. So it's a biological reaction. The average decision or the average adult actually makes 35,000 decisions a day. 35,000. Let's cut that as much as possible. Decision quality drops about 30% after multiple choices. And willpower is higher in the morning and depletes during the day. So if you're making decisions at 5 p.m. after you've made decisions all day, it's not working off your best self. So y'all, I love me a good 2x2 matrix, and humans actually love them because this is an easy way of bucketizing, right? Our brain has a battery, and systems like this help with pre-made decisions. Without a system, everything feels important. And so we try to do everything. And just like agility, just like if we're talking about Kanban or iterative flow or continuous flow, a good, simple system will change everything. So I love a good 2x2 because it's easy. So what is the value? What is the effort? If it's low effort, high value, dude, do them. If it's high value, high effort, it's hard, but it's going to be worth it. Now, if it's high effort, low value, here's the things that we say yes to the most when we don't want to. Let's try to minimize these as much as possible because they are not worth it. They are not worth your time, effort, or energy. So when we talk about these things, I've given you, we have a 2x2 matrix. What are the questions? But I want to give you one more thing to kind of launch off of. Here are 5 tips that I want you to think about. And again, notice daily stand-up isn't on here. Backlog refinement isn't on here because it's about the mindset that we have. So the first one is I want you to do a timer test. Set 2-minute timer for each decision. And if you can't decide in 2 minutes, put it on the later list and remove yourself from that decision. It's going to show you how much time you waste making decisions. You can start that today. And then the not now list. Start a physical or digital. I like a physical because that tactile nature gives your brain a little bit of a boost. Everything you say no to goes here. Review it. What are the patterns? Also celebrate saying no. Celebrate keeping that off your plate so that the things on your plate are amazing, wonderful, and perfect, as closely to perfect as possible. And then the power hour. This is what I was talking about earlier. What is your most productive hour or hours? And protect it. Because that is your deep thinking time. That is only high value, low effort tasks during this time. Crank them out. High value, high effort as well can go here when that's necessary. The 2-box sort. So we want to start with just two categories. Definitely yes, and everything else. Because sometimes saying no is a bit icky. So just those two things. So notice with definitely yes, what happens. Sort them. What is the gut reaction to each one? And then start looking at the themes. And then the last one, oldie but goodie. Pick one high value, low effort task. Do it first thing. Trace the impact and build confidence into your system. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, one of my favorite quotes. You do not rise to the goal of your system you do not rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the levels of your system. But we have to trust them. So doing this one thing can really, really build confidence in the system that you are. And then the bonus one, y'all, life is a team sport. Find your buddy, find your accountability buddy. Share your not now list. Check in weekly. Celebrate wins. Support each other through tough no's. Because here's the thing that we know, that if we say no today and information arises, we get things, we learn something that is going to make that decision a yes, we can absolutely change our mind. But keeping it in that maybe category is using energy. It's using brain power that is not focusing on the highest priority. And that is why we just feel so overwhelmed. So my invitation to y'all is to start with these. These things are the cornerstone to that agile mindset, right? Relentless prioritization. Break stuff down. And always inspect. And when you're presented with more information that changes your mind, awesome. Change your mind. Changing plans is not a bad thing. It means that we're adapting to the circumstances at hand. Okay. And with that, my friends, what questions, comments, concerns do y'all have?
Yes, feel free to post any questions in the chat and we'll definitely get to those. But what I found interesting on that last slide that you were sharing, Dallas, is the 2-minute timer test. Now, are we sort of saying if you can't make a decision in that 2-minute time, then your problem's probably too big and you do need to break it down to a different bucket?
Mm-hmm. And it's also noticing the gut as well. It's like, oh, this really isn't, but Daniel asked me and he's a really good friend and I really need to and sometimes that hemming and hawing, as my grandma would say, is where we spend the most of our decision-making time. And when we just the gut, really pulling everything out, it's going to give us that quicker result.
Excellent. And then the other stat that jumped out at me, 35,000 decisions an individual makes a day.
Yeah.
And the team multiplier of that. So a lot of that's a lot of decisions amongst, say, 7 plus or minus 2, being that sort of small cross-functional team size.
Yeah.
How do you keep stock of all those decisions so that you're not making those decisions because not everyone's across decisions that were made?
I think it's the boundary conversation. Also, definition of done, right? I think of boundaries and definition of done is very similar. I think I can give an example with my kiddos, right? So dishes were on their list of chores. And when I said dishes, Emma our beautiful daughter, really just did the dishes. The bench was dirty, the stove was dirty, the food wasn't put up. And then Liam, same thing, right? And so I'm like, okay, guys, this is what this means. Like when we say this, here are the expectations. So again, that transparency as well as what are the expectations for each one, and the transparency. And I think that a visible system, right? I know it's 2024, it's about to be 2025, but we have a physical Kanban board and a physical calendar downstairs. And it is super, super beneficial. And we have a shared family calendar called In Case I Need an Organ Donor. But it's how do we give everyone, not the transparency that we think they want, but what is going on so that we can make sure our decisions don't affect the other systems, because that is inherently what happens.
Oh yeah, feel free to drop in any other questions. Lucy's actually just put one in. So I love the concept of a power hour. As someone who works best first thing in the morning, I find this super helpful and super productive. What is your power hour? What are you most productive in the day? Are you a lark or an owl?
I am a lark, like 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Like I feel like I am the smartest person in the world. And let me be really honest, between 2 and 4, which I know is exactly where we are now, usually I leave to like my scheduling meetings, responding to email tasks, things like that. But yeah, Lucy, and also I will say, like, when it comes to like 10:30 a.m. and I'm like, hell yeah, I just got this big piece of work sent out, it makes the rest of the day more productive. Like it just gives me that boost of feel good chemicals to kind of go through the end of the day as well.
Right. And another question just anticipating roadblocks and trying to implement some of the strategies here. What do the naysayers of agility say are that its downfalls? Or maybe asked a different way, are there instances or situations where agility might fall short?
Mm. I think that it depends. Do I think that agility doesn't work, isn't the best system for some? Heck yes. Like if it is an obvious problem and everyone knows how to do it, and go build a beautiful waterfall and project plan and a Gantt chart where you know exactly what you're doing on July 19th. More power to you, sis. And if there's any complexity in it, and when I say complexity, I mean, is it the first time you're doing it? Are there humans involved? Are there third parties involved? Are there items that you can't control involved? And if any of those things are in place, it's naive of us to think that the harder we plan, the better it is, right? We plan because we felt pain. Like when somebody puts another step in a process, it's because they felt pain. So we can't fault them for that. They're trying to stop that from happening. But the exponential nature of what can go wrong in our life is such that we can't plan for every single mistake. So how can we make the plan flexible? How can we make the plan have the ability to ingest more information and change without it being somehow something bad that a project plan has changed, right? I mean, I remember when we changed a date or scope, or cost to a plan, like we might as well have done the shame walk down the hall in the office because it was terrible. But y'all, that's not what life is, right? Not what this is. It's one of the most amazing things to be able to have a simple framework, which is what a lot of core agility is. When I say core agility, I'm not talking about all like the bells and whistles and blah, blah, blah. Go back to the principles and the frameworks. It is simple. And it's also having people use those big, beautiful brains that they were born with. Have them make their decisions.
Yeah, I think if Agile is a mindset, what you said right at the start, if there's a problem to solve and you know how to solve it in a practice that might look like a waterfall,
Yeah.
do it. It's Agile's a
Yeah.
mindset. It doesn't matter what practice you apply to it. It's
Exactly.
the thinking and the principles you align to your actions. And to just pick up on that comment about the naysayers, a lot of the naysaying has come from this rigid adoption of a framework or a process, deeming that or giving it a badge of agility, and you must follow that process to be equal agile. So
Yeah.
agile mindset is the key piece there.
I think agile mindset is the antithesis of checklist agile, which I think is the reason why people are saying agile is dead. Because, well, we did steps 1 through 4, right? We had a stand up. We have 5 to 7, team members. We have all the events. And yet there's no trust, there's no transparency, there's no adaptiveness. And so, like, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. And so when we do checklist agile, we're just putting lipstick on a pig. We have to embrace the mindset in order to fully embrace the value.
Now, another question from Peck. Thanks for the question. How can we balance using these strategic no's while maintaining strong relationships and avoiding potential misunderstandings?
Yeah, I think this is such a good question, because I think this gets to the heart of why people don't say no. Because we don't want to disappoint someone. We don't want to make them mad. We're scared of that relationship that we have. So there's a few things that I like to do. One, transparency. Like, if we were in a team, it's like, hey guys, this is the amount of work we can do in a 2-week sprint. Here are the things that are higher priority. What do you think that we should question in order to move yours up? Or is it okay to wait? And if in our family unit, right? Okay, Emma, you need to go to the theater. Liam, you need to go to rugby. Matthew has something in town, and I've got a training. All right, y'all, I can't drive all of you, or Matthew can't drive all of you. So what are alternate solutions? Like, here's the whole system. You choose your path forward. That's what visibility, transparency of the whole system. And then secondly, what do they care about? That other person? What is at the core of their request? And is there something maybe smaller that you can do, breaking it down, that you can have that request go to? Or saying, hey, we can't give you this whole thing, but we could fit this piece of value, this outcome in here, and then we can learn from it elsewhere. Breaking it down and giving people a little bit of something can be incredibly powerful, and understanding what's in it for them. Why are they fighting for this? And when you understand that, I think it can help you come up with different alternatives, and also be able to articulate why now isn't the right time to do that.
Excellent question, because that really is the heart of the conversation today, isn't it? And everyone playing a different game, which I brought up before. If everyone is playing a different game, that you have to realize the competing priorities that come around, and that's why you saying no might seem slap in the face to them, but it makes sense in the reality that you're working in.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think, like, have they been burned in the past, right? I think some people carry the legacy baggage of being said no to, or having something happen to them, and they're scared of that. And so really getting to what is the thing for them, I think just opens up so many opportunities to fix the problem. And then it's you and me as a team against the problem versus you versus me. So anytime we can put the problem over here and team up to solve it, awesome.
So with that, Dallas, I think we're just out of time. Our last webinar for the year. So we hope that everyone dialing in or watching the recording has a wonderful break. Stay safe out there. Enjoy time with your friends and family, and we'll see you again next year on our schedule. Merry Christmas, Dallas.
Merry Christmas. Bye, y'all.